Hey guys, can you see me? Can you hear me? Let me know in the chat below just so we know things are working out, and we'll get started in just a minute. Hey guys, can you hear me? And hopefully you guys can all see my screen as well. I'm super excited today to start this live stream because we're actually going to start an app from start to finish, and this is not planned out. I haven't built this app before. There are things that I haven't figured out myself. I don't know if this app idea that I have exists, so we're gonna go through all of those steps together. But I just wanna wait a couple more minutes for people to join, and we'll get started. Hey guys. Hey Chris, hey Musa, Angela, Prakash. Hey Musa, you should actually be able to see my screen. I actually just have a quick agenda on there. You guys should all be able to see my screen right now. If you can't, try refreshing the page. I don't know, but I am sharing my screen right now. I am optimal. If you have Windows 10, you have a couple of options. We actually have an article for PC users and kind of the options that they have. So Adrian will send that link. All right, so let's get started. If you guys don't know me, my name is Chris. If this is the first time you're on the channel, welcome to Code with Chris, where we teach people how to build iOS apps, basically. Adrian is manning the chat, and so please be nice to him. Send in your questions one by one, and don't break up your messages into multiple messages, and that's gonna help him be able to make sure all your questions get answered. But in this live stream, I don't know if we'll have a Q&A time. We might. This is gonna run for an hour. And I'm not really gonna be teaching so much as showing in this live stream because like I said, this live stream we're gonna start by taking an app idea that I have. I'll explain what it is. We're gonna look into the App Store, check out what sorts of apps are existing for this kind of idea, maybe check the reviews to see if people complain about certain things. We're gonna go through some features and requirements, and again, this is all from scratch, so I don't have these listed out beforehand. I haven't given it any thought. So there's gonna be some audience participation, right? You're gonna be able to suggest features for me for this app. We're going to discuss sort of which features should make it into the first version of the app, which features should be like a later phase, and I'll show you how I break things up so that I aim to get the project complete and out the door rather than trying to get the whole thing polished and perfect, right? And super duper featureful before shipping it. That's not the way that I think we should work, but I'll explain all of that later. And then I'll talk about some of the challenges that I foresee with building this app, some of the things that I still need to figure out, some of the things that I've already figured out, like I've done in the past, so it shouldn't be a roadblock for me. And I think that even though I don't have everything figured out, that's why I'm doing this. So I think it'll be very helpful for you guys to see that building an app isn't always a smooth process, right? It's a bumpy road. And even for someone like me who, I was doing it professionally in IT consulting for like 5 years, it's still, there's still things to figure out because there's always new features in the SDK. There's, things I've done in the past, I don't remember sometimes, right? So I have to go back, and nowadays, Google is awesome, and having this resource and having all of these people create all of this content for iOS development, and then all of the documentation available online, it's great. Like I know some of the people who have been in the tech industry for a while, and back then before, before the internet was so widespread, we would have to dig through textbooks and hopefully try to find the solution to your problem by just flipping through pages of thick textbooks. and relying on more senior people in the company to perhaps have encountered that problem before and help you solve it. But these days, development, I think, has changed a lot, whereas you can use Google and find your answers hopefully within minutes. So really do utilize that. And I am going off on a tangent, so I'll stop talking about that. But let's get started with unveiling my app idea for this big project. And it's basically a Pomodoro timer. So if you know what that is, there are a ton of Pomodoro timer apps in the App Store already. I can tell you that right now. And I'll explain what Pomodoro is in a second for those of you guys who don't know. But my idea for a Pomodoro timer, and it's not an original idea, is to integrate social features into the Pomodoro timer so that you can connect with friends. Like you can add friends to your account, and then you guys can see each other's like Pomodoros, how many Pomodoros you have completed during that day, so you can motivate each other and you can challenge each other to do more Pomodoros. Now, before I get too far ahead of myself, for those of you guys who don't know what the Pomodoro technique is, let me just explain very, very quickly. And I actually found a graphic on Google, and it talks about it like really, really succinctly. A Pomodoro timer is basically a timer. Let me back up. The Pomodoro technique, I don't even know who developed it, but if you Google it, there was a guy who invented this technique. But it basically revolves around productivity and how to stay productive. So the idea works like this. You set a timer for 25 minutes, and during those 25 minutes, you remove all distractions. You just focus on that one thing that you're doing for 25 minutes. Your timer is going to go off at the end of 25 minutes. At that point, you take a short break, which is a 5-minute break. So for 5 minutes, you just, get up, stretch, whatever. And then you do another Pomodoro for 25 minutes. Same task until you get it done. So you keep repeating this process, 25 minutes of work, 5 minutes of break, until you reach 4 Pomodoros. So you've worked for 100 minutes. Then you take a longer break, and they recommend a 15-minute break, I think, for a long break. But there is some flexibility in how you use the system, so you can take a longer break as long as you want. And then you get back to it. So the idea is that it helps you remove all distractions, because your mind thinks, oh, for 25 minutes, I just have to do this task for 25 minutes. And it makes it easier to start. Right, for something that you really, really don't want to do and you're procrastinating, if you just think, I'm just going to do 25 minutes. And then once you get into it, you do more and more until it's done. Number 2, it helps you estimate tasks, because if you do that task a lot and you're setting your Pomodoro timers, you'll be able to then better estimate how many Pomodoros that task will take. And so you can break up your workday. If you have like 8 hours or 6 hours or whatever, you can then gauge better how much work you can actually fit in. So that's the whole idea of the Pomodoro technique. What I've been using myself is this website called Tomato Timer, and it's like the most basic website you will ever find for this sort of thing. But it works, and that's why I use it. So all you do is you hit start, the timer goes for 25 minutes, and when those 25 minutes are up, it beeps, and then you just stop it, you reset it, and then you go to this tab where it's going to give you a 5-minute break. So you take your 5-minute break and you go back to the Pomodoro for 25 minutes, and after you've done 4 of them, you take a long break. So personally, when I use this Pomodoro technique to try to stay productive, I don't keep track of how many Pomodoros I've done. I mostly use this as a way to remove distraction, because in my mind, I'm like, I just have to focus for 25 minutes. And also as a motivator to do things that I don't really want to do. And if I didn't have anything like this, I would just put off those things continuously. So I think we all have tasks like that. So personally, I find this very useful. And I know there are apps out there, there's like a ton of apps in the App Store for this sort of simple timer, but I don't think there is one which has these social features integrated, where you can kind of cheer each other on and be like, oh, how many Pomodoros did you do? How many did I do? And then just help each other stay productive. And again, this is not my original idea. I was reading a blog post it was on search engine optimization, and this guy, he uses Pomodoro timers religiously. And one way that he stays so productive is that he has a partner which he works with, and they chat through the messages app, and they just tell each other how many Pomodoros they did. And it kind of, because they have a competitive nature, they kind of spur each other on to do more. And so he was saying, like, he can't find anything out there for this sort of social twist to the Pomodoro technique. And if someone were to create it, then he would be the first to use it. And so that kind of gave me the idea, and I think it would be useful. Like, even if no one paid me any money to do it, I think I would use it. So that's kind of my motivation. I'm not doing this for money or anything. And I thought that this would be also a great project to share with you guys, to go on this journey and take this idea, right, build it out, submit it to the App Store, build like a website for it, just basically go through the whole thing, and you guys can experience all of the ups and downs and the roadblocks and the challenges. And I think that's what some of you guys said that you wanted to see. And I thought it was a really good idea. I actually agree with that, because there are a ton of iOS tutorials out there, right? But what's the problem with all of this knowledge? It's that it relies on the reader or the watcher or the viewer, right, to take that knowledge and turn it into practice, right? Be practical with it. Because just consuming content, just reading, just watching, it doesn't help you get anything done. And unless you turn that knowledge into wisdom through doing the work, right? That's the point where that knowledge actually gives you dividends and gives you like a return on investment. Yeah. So hopefully this candid, real journey of me building this app and showing you guys all of the steps and processes helps you guys understand what it's really like, all right, behind the curtains, and hopefully it inspires you guys to start. Now, in the beginning of next month, in the beginning of November, I'll be kind of not hosting, but I'll be starting like a challenge, like an app challenge. And I think I've talked about this in the previous live stream, where I want to get as many people who feel comfortable building apps, no matter how simple they are, to be involved. And the goal is to try to build and ship an app within a month. And I think that's completely doable, as long as your scope isn't like out to space, right? If you pick something that's going to be doable for your skill level, I think that's totally doable. And I think the point is not to make money or not to do anything like that. The point is to get into the practice of actually producing stuff, actually putting into practice what you're learning, and actually shipping products. Because I think, there's this sort of danger of always tweaking something and trying to get it perfect, or always just working on designs and prototypes and daydreaming about stuff, right? And it's not until you actually ship something and maybe get some feedback on it that where you know that you're either onto something, or maybe you should close the door on that. So that's going to be the challenge starting November 1st. And for those of you guys who aren't at the skill level where you feel like you can build anything yet, I'll have another learning path for you guys to take for the next 28 days where you can get yourself up to speed. So that's all coming up. I'm really excited about that. But anyways, now that we have the intro out of the way, let's get started with the next part, which is, so I've told you about my app idea. The next part I wanted to do with you guys is actually just check out the App Store. Now, I've downloaded a couple of the Pomodoro timers. By couple, I actually mean two. And one I found really confusing to use. I feel like a timer should just, when you launch it, you should be able to just see a start button and start it. But some of these are actually, the way that they've done the user interface is actually a little bit confusing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in my phone, and hopefully I can show it on the screen. We're going to check out the App Store, see what's available, and hopefully I don't see a Pomodoro timer which already has the social features included, because as I didn't look very hard, and as far as I know, it doesn't exist. So we're going to check that out. Let me plug in my phone right here. All right, so it's still, so hopefully you guys can see my phone. You can see it on the screen right now. Oh, okay, so in case you guys were wondering, the app is not going to be submitted to the App Store today, right? Today we are starting the journey to do this. So I think by the end of this live stream, we will have a list of requirements fleshed out, the bare minimum requirements to submit to the App Store as an MVP or minimal viable product. And I'll be able to tell you guys about what my next steps are in terms of figuring out some of the challenges that are going to exist for me. All right, so I'm looking in the App Store here. I'm going to do a search. Let's search for Pomodoro. I'm just going to search for the more general term just to see what comes up. So Focus Keeper is one which I actually downloaded, and this is the one which I'm currently using. The nice thing about this one is that it has all of these nice graphs, and I really like the idea of it logging how many Pomodoros you've done and being able to see over time the work that you've done, because that's one thing that I'm not doing right now. I just use the timer, I turn it, I time it, and I stop it, and I just use that tomato timer I showed you. It doesn't keep track of any history. So just by using the app, which I've been using this one for the last maybe a couple of days, it's nice to be able to keep track of that. So this one is pretty easy to use, right? It's got a start and a stop, but this one doesn't have any of the social features which I'm targeting, and it has some pretty good ratings. So what I would do is probably take a look at some of the reviews and see what people do like about it, and hopefully try to emulate some of those features into the app that we're building right now. So there's that. Yeah, this is another kind of like version, I guess, of a Pomodoro timer, but it's not really based off of the Pomodoro technique. For timers like this, it's basically like you set the time that you want to work, and if you take your phone and try to do something else with it, like go on Facebook or whatever, then the tree that you're growing is gonna die. So the motivation is to stay focused, is to not kill your tree. So I wouldn't consider this to be a Pomodoro timer. It's a productivity tool, but it's not a Pomodoro timer. And this one here, this one's just in Chinese. It's not really my target market, but I think it looks like at a bare minimum, you've got the timers and then you've got charts, right? Keep track of how much you've worked, which definitely we should have. And some of these as well, they're not just Pomodoro timers. They're also like to-do lists, and they're goal trackers and stuff like that. And personally, now this is my personal opinion, I feel like if your app tries to do too much, it's going to be convoluted and it's going to be more confusing to use. And so when I build this Pomodoro timer app, it's purely going to be for the Pomodoro technique. And I'm not going to try to put to-do lists or goals or anything like that. And then we're going to have the social aspect all based around the Pomodoros that you complete. See, this one has habit training and monotasking. I wouldn't call this like a pure Pomodoro technique app either. Based on the Pomodoro technique. Yeah, make a to-do list. Nah. Rustum, how to quit the learning regimen and start doing your own project. So you've just gotta you just gotta start. But I know it can be confusing as to where to start, and so I do have a learning plan that I'm going to come up with starting November 1st. That's going to be free for everyone to use, and it's going to basically be like day 1 you do this, day 2 you do this, and you just follow that. And hopefully that motivates you guys to actually do stuff rather than just continually learning, because I know it can be tempting to just watch like 10 videos and then, you know, back to back like a Netflix binging session, but that's not really helpful. Create a rewarding daily habit routine. You know what? I don't see anything. Yeah, okay, this was the other one that I've used. Flat Tomato. I downloaded this one. I found it really hard to use. I didn't really understand because the interface was so minimal that when I launched it, I saw this clock face, but there were no like buttons to tell me what to press or what actions to take. And I found it really confusing to use. But it still has pretty good ratings, so maybe I'm just dumb. Yeah. All right, so I'm kind of focused. I'm sorry, I'm kind of satisfied. To me, yeah. See, there are a ton of these things, but I don't think any of them have had this sort of social feature. It's all very like um, focused on your own to do. The next thing to do, I'm not going to do this right here because it's a little mind numbing, but it would be to go through some of the reviews for these apps and kind of see what people are saying about the app. What do they like about it? What do they don't like about it? And that sort of knowledge will sort of guide you into what sorts of features that you should implement into your own app, or maybe how to design the user interface of your app. Like if a particular app has really good reviews, I would suggest you download it and play around with it and see kind of how they did their UI. And I wouldn't say copy it, but I would say let it guide you in your design when you're designing your own app. Right, so I'm gonna move on now to writing out our own feature set for our app right here. So just gonna minimize that, and we're just gonna do this right here. So I will just write it right here: features and requirements. See if you guys can see this on my screen. All right. So I would say, and I'm gonna break this right now into like a V1, V2, because I'm gonna tell you right now, my V1 is going to be super simple, because if you've seen my video right here, which I released recently called Finish Your Projects, or 5 Tips to Help You Complete Your Projects, I recommend that you should take your overall feature set and break it down into an MVP that is manageable. So what is the minimum amount of core features your app needs to have to still be useful? All right, and so that's what I'm going to base it on. To me, this tomato timer on this website, this is like the bare minimum I think that you need in order to follow the Pomodoro technique. So there's like no history, there's no tracking, there's no social features, there's no charts, nothing. And so I'm gonna base my V1 off of something like this, where you literally just have 3 timers: start and stop and reset. And you know, that is literally it. So my V1 is going to be something like we have the 25-minute timer, right? We have the 5-minute break timer, and we have the long 15-minute long break timer. And I think, like, in order for it to be useful as well as a Pomodoro timer, is if, like, let's say you get a phone call or something pops up in your app, and if you're really sticking to your Pomodoro technique, you're not supposed to be distracted by any of that. But let's just say if you do, and this app goes into the background, I feel like it should still be tracking the time, right? So that it doesn't like pause the timer when your app goes in the background. So I feel like even as a V1, the app needs to keep, or how about let's just say timer needs to continue to run in the background, like if you have that timer set. So that's one of the things that I actually don't know how to do, but I know it can be done because obviously it can, because everyone has these Pomodoro timer apps out there. I just need to figure out how to do it, and I'm sure it's not very hard. Because in order to run things in the background, I do know that you need to enable certain capabilities for your app. So I think it's just that. I think it's just specifying that your app needs to run timers, or maybe schedule a reminder or something like that. I need to investigate that. So that's one of the challenges, but I'll get into that. Let me see if you guys have any suggestions. Okay, so if you guys do have suggestions, type it in now. I'm keeping track of the chat now. So let me just do future, so I don't have to organize those. But definitely social features, right? We're talking about ability for users to create an account. Also, ability for user to use it as a guest. So if people want to use the timer and not create an account and just use the app without the social features, I do want to allow that as well. So there are, let's break this up into social features, timer features. So for this would be like ability to set or to customize the durations of the breaks or work timers. Let's see what you guys are saying. Ability to set targets. Martin, maybe you can expand on what you mean by targets. Do you mean, so you mean like a goal for how many Pomodoros you're gonna do that day? Integration into messages. Maybe Kevin, you can expand on that. Like, in what way would it integrate into the messages app? Like, would you share your progress with someone through messages? Is that what you're talking about? Okay, Martin, yeah, I'm gonna write that down. So this would be like goal setting, ability to set a daily goal for the amount of palms you're going to do. I'll call this sharing. I have to merge some of this. Actually, sharing would probably go into social. Ability to share your progress with others. So this would be kind of like a share extension type thing, so that you can share it with messages or WhatsApp or anything like that. Let me just type out some more of these. Ability for user to follow. Is follow the right word, or add to add friends? Ability to, like, we would need user profiles, right? So that you can see how many Pomodoros your friend is doing or something like that. Ability to view user profiles. And I think what would be very cool is like if you could issue challenges, right? Like if you could have a running challenge with another person or maybe a group of people, where you set a goal like, oh, every day you have to do, like, the goal everyone agrees on is like every day you have to do 10 Pomodoros or something, and then whoever doesn't do it gets like kicked out of the group or dropped out, and then like you can see who's left standing, like King of the Hill styles. I don't know, that's just an idea, but I'm gonna write it down. Ability to issue challenges with a single person or group, and we can elaborate on that. Needs more detail. See what you guys are saying. Yeah, Martin, I agree. Yeah, I agree with setting daily, weekly targets. Um, I just don't want to get too far out there that this app turns into kind of like a habit tracker as well, because I want to stay really focused that this is just um, like a very strict Pomodoro timer. But I might, I might change my mind on that. That's the way I feel right now. But see, this is why we do an MVP, right? So we're gonna release the V1. It's a simple timer. V2, we might add some of the social features, and then depending on what people start saying, if people start using this and saying like, "Oh, I wish I had this, I wish I had that," then we're gonna have to start evaluating what's best for the users, because you do want to. The idea is to iterate on this idea and this product to turn it into something that people love using. All right, let's see. Oh, Iona, you saying the long break is 30 minutes? Yeah, I have to verify. I have to verify that. It might be 30 minutes. You might be completely right. I'm not so sure if it might be 15 minutes or not. I'm just gonna say like X minute. Like, what is the long break that the Pomodoro technique actually recommends? I know for me personally, I just take like X number of minutes. I don't keep track of how long my break is. And I go off and do something, and whenever I'm done taking a break, I just come back and start another cycle of 4 Pomodoros. Oh, I really like that. I really like the messages, like keep going, the encouragement, right? Martin, so the user profile is not going to be not social profile. It's going to be like how many pomodoros has this guy done today, and in the last week or something like that. So the idea is to keep each other accountable, to stay productive and to be doing work. I'm gonna put your feature under goal setting. So encouragement quotes. Yeah. Happy images. So I've kind of decided that this is going to be like V1. We can probably crank this out pretty quickly, because I do like, my goal is going to be try to release this V1 by the end of the month, so that when we start the app challenge on November 1st, I can be ready to do like a phase 2 version of the app, and I'm going to use that as my month-long app challenge. So I'm going to keep V1 really simple and probably not very useful, to be honest, compared to all of the other Pomodoro timers out there, but I don't really care. I'm just gonna, because I think mentally just getting it shipped, getting it released in the App Store is a milestone in my head, and that's gonna keep me motivated to do V2, right? I think when we're talking about motivation, like, I run into the same problems as you guys do, if any of you guys suffer from that. Like I said before, I have tons of half-done projects in a folder somewhere on my computer, and I'm really scared to publicly now, right? I'm doing this with you guys to cut the cord on this. I don't really want to do that. So I'm going to set V1 to be very manageable, to be something like I'm pretty confident, like 99%, that I can get this done and shipped. And then we are going to improve on that from there. So I'm following my own advice, guys, in the 5 tips on how to finish your project. Following my own advice here. Social features. So, I don't know if we have to decide on a V2 right now, but I feel like V2 might be to be able to set durations. Like, that seems pretty necessary, because everyone uses Pomodoro a little differently. Some people take longer breaks, some people not. And the social aspect, like integrating the ability to create an account, to like even having to create an account requires a back end. So at this point, we're getting into databases, right? And so that's compared to everything else, that's a large part of work. So it would be useless to introduce the ability to create an account, but that's it, right? Oh, I forgot. So let me finish that train of thought. So it'd be useless to be able to create an account but not do anything with it. So if we were to introduce the ability to create an account, we would have to also introduce the ability to like add friends and follow friends and maybe like their, maybe give them a thumbs up when they've completed a Pomodoro or something like that. But I was about to say that we forgot a huge piece here, and that would be like history. I don't know if that's the right word, but basically like tracking how much work you've done, like keeping track of POMs completed every day, showing them in a graph. I don't know why I'm capitalizing some of these. Ability to change date range on the graph. So stuff like that, like ability to manipulate the graph so that you can see how many maybe Pomodoros you've done in the last month versus the last week versus the last 3 days or whatever like that, and maybe to be able to average it out. So this definitely needs more detail, needs more thought around it. But see, doing this stuff doesn't require user accounts either. So we can keep track of this data locally on their device, right? When they do create an account though, we could sync that data somewhere so that if they logged into that same account on another device, or maybe they're using 2 devices at once, or maybe in the future we create like a Mac app version of this app as well, then the data can get synced into that same account. So, data syncing. I actually don't know if this has an H or not. Does that look right? Syncing or syncing? Okay, it doesn't seem like it matters. All right, data syncing. So ability to transfer data to another device or keep data in sync with another device. Let's see what you guys are saying right here. OF, you have tons of half-done online courses. Same with me. It's, like life happens, things come up. It's tough. And here I am, like I have online courses, right, for people. So like firsthand, I know how hard it is to make time for this stuff. Yeah, Iona, I don't want this app to have to be connected to the internet to work, because it shouldn't, right? Just only for the social features it would be. Yeah, Kevin, you're right. So Kevin says the ability to categorize the poems that you work on, whether that's for like school or work, or maybe another ability to set categories so that when you're looking at your history, you can see how much work you've done in each category. I think that kind of goes with goal setting, I think. No, timer features. I put this under here. Ability to choose a category for the POM you're running. And filter based on category. So Furkan, I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, but he's saying the integration with GitHub or Bitbucket to bind the POM with a repository to track how many hours of code in the repo. That's interesting. That's interesting. Does GitHub or Bitbucket track hours like that? I'm actually not familiar with that, but I'm gonna write it down. I'm just gonna make a MISC category. With, I'm just gonna say source control. So Jesper asks, will the social feature work with teams, like setting a timer for an entire team? I've actually seen that done with this app called Forest, which is a productivity app that revolves around timers as well. And I think they've just released a feature, or maybe it's not recent, but I recently discovered that they have a feature where you can like put your phones together and sync up a timer. So like you said, if coworkers are working together, they have like a group timer, and if anyone picks up their phone, I think it kills the tree or whatever they're trying to grow for the whole team. So it keeps the whole team focused. But to answer your question, Jesper, I haven't thought about it, whether it will work together as a team. I'm gonna write that down. But in my head right now, I haven't thought about doing that. So I'm gonna write that down. Okay. Let's build $1 million Pomodoro app. You know what? I haven't even thought about monetization. I don't, like I said, my goal isn't to make money from the app. I honestly would just like to use it. And I think that's the best motivation, although it's kind of idealistic because people need money to survive. So if we were to charge money for it, I don't know, we could try different forms of monetization. That would be an interesting experiment. I think we should do it. We should try, like, just because we're building this together, I think you guys would all be interested to see like how much potential, money we could make off of releasing an app and monetizing it too, right? So there are so many different ways to monetize it, but like one way that comes to mind right now would be to be like have a banner with an in-app purchase to remove it, let's say, for pro version. And then like you see apps telling people they could use it for free, right? But then pro version unlocks maybe like the history version aspect of it or anything else. I do believe we cannot put the social features behind a paywall because that's kind of what is the differentiator for this app, right? Without the social features, then how is this any different from any of the other Pomodoro timers out there in the App Store right now, right? I wouldn't say any. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to take some time away to take a look at these features, which we've talked about, and come up with a V2. But I don't think I have to do that until closer to the end of the month. I'm gonna focus on doing this part, V1, which is pretty doable. The only thing I need to figure out, right, is this timer in the background. And the next time I talk to you guys, I'm gonna make it a goal to have figured that out so I can tell you guys what I had to do. But the next steps, traditionally, let me bring up another video that I've done. That's this one called the app design process. And that basically just runs through the different steps typically taken in building an app. So we have now completed like the first step, which is basically to gather the requirements for the app and figure out a core MVP version. The next step would be to wireframe it out so that you can design kind of like the UI for the app. And then it would be design, and then it would be development, and then integrating the design, testing it, and releasing it. So me coming from as a developer, the thing that I like to do all the time is I like to figure out all of the technical challenges first. Like I like to make sure that I can actually do all of these things before starting on the UI and the design and stuff like that. Because I feel like there's no point in designing an element or a feature if when it comes down to it, I can't achieve it technically, right? So there's nothing here that like this I told you guys I don't know how to do right now, but I know it can be done. So I'm not that worried about having to completely figure that out first, right? So in the next video in this sort of how to make an app from scratch series, I'll be mocking up the screens for this version. Now I'm not going to go ahead and wireframe all of the screens for like all of these features because we haven't really figured out exactly which features are going to make the cut and in what order. What I'm going to be focused on is the timer screen because that's really the screen that people are going to be spending the most time on, right? And I think that screen has a huge impact on whether that person will use the app or not. And this is based on my experience. I told you guys I downloaded 2 Pomodoro apps. I launched the first one. I tapped on the timer. It was confusing. I started it and I didn't know how to stop the timer or pause the timer. And like I was just trying to figure out how to use it and I just gave up and I just like closed the app and then I launched the other one. And simply for the fact that it was easy for me to figure out how to start and stop that timer, I ended up sticking with that app and using that app. So that's why it's so important for the UI. Not just that it looks pretty and that it's got flashy animations and all of that, but that it's intuitive to use. Like that's number one. So I'm going to be taking a look at some of the other Pomodoro apps out there, like I told you, reading their reviews, especially for the highly rated ones, taking a look at maybe I can find some commonality in the UI for all of the highly rated ones, and I'm going to take those considerations into my own design process when I'm like wireframing that up. So I'm going to do that work offline. However, in the next video, I am going to recreate the wireframe with you guys if I've already done that, so that I can show you guys how to use the graphic design tools to create a wireframe. Right, I'm not going to just show up and be like, hey guys, I created the wireframe, here you go, this. Then you guys wouldn't be able to do that for your own apps, right? So in the next video or live stream, whatever it might be, I will show you guys how to navigate around a graphics design tool and how to create some wireframes in that tool. And I will have figured out what my UI will look like. So we'll build that wireframe of that V1 version together in that graphics tool. And then from there, right, we'll build it out, which is like I'm looking at it, it's a pretty simple app. And then we're gonna launch it together in the App Store. So you're gonna get to see the things that you're gonna be testing, the things that the assets that you'll need. We'll create the app icon, launch screen and stuff like that, and we'll publish it together. And then starting in November, when I'm gonna run that challenge, we'll take a look at V2 for the app. And so hopefully you guys stick around. And now we've got about 12 more minutes. I'm gonna take a look at what sort of questions you guys have, if you have any questions. Oh, sorry about that. I will talk louder and into my mic. I should move this mic. Sorry if you guys had trouble hearing me just now. But let me take a look at your chat. Let's see if you guys have any questions for me. Will the November challenge have a theme? Do you think you guys would want a theme? I don't want to restrict you guys to building something. So maybe I could think of a theme that you can follow or not. Seeing as this is going to be the first time that I'm doing this, it might be a free for all this time because my ultimate goal is just to get people to do things, right? To get people off of their butt and to actually do something. So I haven't yet formalized like what sort of prizes or recognition there might be, and there will be recognition for sure. Prizes for this first one, I'm not sure, but I do plan for it to be a monthly thing, and I want to just motivate people to get off their butt to do stuff. So if you guys have any questions for me, just type it into the chat right now. I'm just going through the chat. Iona, I missed this this feature idea that you had, which is changing the music or the alarm that sounds depending on the project you're working, or maybe have an ability to customize that. That's kind of cool. I'm gonna write that down right here. Jesper, we use the Pomodoro technique while developing your Pomodoro app. Yeah, I might just. Maybe you guys let me know, like how many of you guys have actually heard about the Pomodoro technique before, and how many of you guys actually use it yourself? That'd be interesting to hear, because I think it's a pretty well-known technique. Nelson, thank you for your compliment. Lauren too asks, storyboard or programmatically for the first little complex app? It seems like I've got this question once every live stream. So you have to code. Well, to code you have to sit maybe off the Netflix. Lauren too, to answer your question like really quickly, because I have answered this question before. Maybe I need to do a video on it, but for beginners, I would recommend using the storyboard because it's just so much easier to be able to visualize, and especially when beginners aren't used to reading code yet or writing code even, it can be daunting to create all your auto layout constraints in code and to create all of your elements in code and lay them out. But if you're working in a team in a professional environment, you will probably be forced to create everything programmatically because in my own experience, it's working in the professional environment, it's just so much easier to merge code and resolve conflicts programmatically than trying to resolve conflicts in an XML file, which is what the storyboard is. And then also there's the aspect that it's faster when you're generating everything programmatically. So to answer your question, I think they kind of serve different purposes. For me, here I am probably going to be doing it via the storyboard. I might be taking a hybrid approach when I start getting to the social features. And basically when I pull that data down from the database, I might be generating some of like the whatever social cards or social history or whatever aspects of it programmatically. But for the timer aspect, I might do it through storyboard just so because I'm going to be demonstrating this, and I'm going to be using this project series as something for beginners to follow. That's why I'm opting for that route. Yeah, a lot of you guys have heard of it before. Team Film Studies, make a video on a pedometer core motion, please. I actually haven't looked into any of that stuff before. So your best bet would be to try Googling for it first to see if other YouTube or iOS content creators has created any tutorials for that. That will be faster than me looking into it first and then creating a tutorial with it. Yeah, Christopher, awesome. I'm glad there's someone that validates the whole social feature aspect of it. The telephone is your worst enemy, Carl. For me, it's not my telephone because I never get calls from anyone, but it's probably like firing up a browser tab and like checking my YouTube stats, or like I don't use Facebook that much, so I'm not really distracted by Facebook because I know some people are. And personally, you know how they say Facebook is bad for you, like it causes depression. I kind of feel that way, not depression per se, not to that extreme, but when I browse people's newsfeed and I see like people are going on vacation and they have these wonderful lives, it just makes me like, oh man, I wish I was there, or I wish that was me, and it just makes me feel bad about myself, and so I don't end up going on Facebook anymore because of that. Because I feel like people only post, the best sides of their lives, but everyone's lives just has ups and downs, right? No one has this perfect life that's all rainbows and sunshine, but I'm just going off on a tangent. Iona, when's the next episode going to be for this app? Well, I am committing to do a live stream like every single Wednesday. So if not before then it will be definitely next Wednesday. But I'm thinking that I might create a standalone video. I'm not going to commit to anything because I'm not completely sure, but definitely next Wednesday, if not before that. But make sure you're subscribed. And now's the chance I'm going to plug my channel. Make sure you're subscribed with the red subscribe button below and click that little bell icon to make sure you get notified if you don't want to miss the next episode. So Iona, thanks for giving me the chance to plug my channel like that. Android user, do you prefer Sketch or Adobe XD? I actually haven't used Adobe XD before, and I prefer Sketch, but I might not use any of those tools because I wanna make as much as possible. I want to be using free tools, so that you guys can follow along with it. And so I'm going to be using Figma. At least that's in my head. That's what I'm going to do right now. And having used both Sketch and Figma is so similar to Sketch. It's crazy. Like all of the shortcut keys, the buttons, and the things that you can do, it's so similar. And so, yeah. But personally, if I wasn't doing any demos or anything like that, and I'm doing things for myself, I use Sketch. I haven't used Adobe XD, although I have a Creative Cloud subscription, so I think I will look into it in the future. I can't compare. I was about to say I haven't used Adobe XD, so I can't compare it with Sketch. Team Film Studies, I want to register user steps taken. Any experience? No, I don't have any experience with that, but does the health, I know Apple Watch does keep track of your steps, but if you didn't have an Apple Watch and you only had an iPhone, does the health kit, like the health app on your phone, does it track steps like that? I don't really use the health app on my phone, but if it does track steps, I would ask, do you then need to track your own steps? Can you take the data from the health app? You might be able to with your app. Excuse me. Voice prototyping. Martin saying that Adobe XD has awesome new features for voice prototyping. I don't even know what that is. I gotta look into that. That sounds pretty crazy. Like you just narrate what happens or something like that. I don't know, but I'll take a look into it. Are some of you guys designers or like graphics professionals? Let me know. Let me know down below, because when you guys see me using Figma or Sketch, I and you guys are graphics professionals, you guys will probably laugh at me. So I am not a professional designer, but I can do like the basic stuff, and so I will be like, I'm able to use it for what I need to use it for. But I can still show you guys in case any of you guys don't know how to use Figma or Sketch at all. No, Jesper. So so my plan is to finish the app, well, to finish V1 of the app and launch it by the end of the month, and that's like in 2 weeks, right? So I can't do it live in the live stream, but what I'm gonna do is, like, I will have to release videos in between the live streams in order to be able to show you guys start to finish V1 out the door. So I know for a fact that I will have to record videos outside of the live stream to do some of this stuff to get it done. So I hope that clarifies stuff. Probin, we have a Facebook group, a Facebook community. You can go and ask those questions, and there'll be tons of people that'll help you out. And just in case you guys don't know, we have a CWC, well, Code with Chris community. It's a Facebook group. Tons of people helping each other out, and I'm not just saying that. I know some Facebook groups are completely dead, not ours. Tons of people in there chatting, helping each other out. So if you have any questions on any of the tutorials that you see in here, or you need help with something you're working on, do join the group and post your questions in there, and you'll get support. So Adrian, thanks for posting the link. There you are. So anyways, guys, the hour is up. I'm so happy to have spent this hour with you, and I'm so glad you guys are on board with this. And I feel like I am getting a little more comfortable in front of the camera and doing live streaming. For you, I've recognized some of the names. You guys have attended like all of the 3 live streams I've done so far, so thank you guys for that. Last question, Mohammed, what do you use for sketching? I just sketch with pencil and a notepad. So, you know, pretty basic stuff. But then I'll translate that into wireframes and a design, which I'll show you guys the next time we talk. Thank you guys again so much, and make sure you're subscribed to see either the next video, maybe like Friday or Tuesday, or if not, then I will talk to you guys next Wednesday at the same time. Okay, so thank you guys so much. I'll chat with you guys later. Bye. And this video will be recorded, so if you guys are coming late and you want to catch up with what happened in the beginning, it will be recorded and published on the channel. All right, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.